Here we have a Hasidic story. There was once a woman whose husband left her. This is in the time of the Tzemach Tzedik, the third Rebbe of Chabad, which is about 150 years ago. There was a woman, a religious woman, and her husband left her. All sorts of temptations, inner temptations and confusion. Anyway, her husband left her alone. Some were saying that he left Judaism totally. In any case, she was stuck because according to Judaism, a woman cannot get married or remarried if she's already married. And a woman is not unmarried unless either her husband dies or gives her a divorce bill. So if a person's husband, this was very common, unfortunately, in World War II, when men were separated from their wives. In Russia also it was, but especially in times of war, the Holocaust, men got separated from the wives. The wives survived, and they didn't know if their husbands survived or not. And they had to get some sort of testimony, a witness or something. In any case, our case is that this poor woman was what they call an aguna. Aguna means that her husband's whereabouts were unknown, or his status was unknown, and she didn't have a bill of divorce, and she couldn't get married, so she didn't know what to do. So she came to the Rebbe with her brother, and her brother, and she had a son also. She also had a son from this husband that left her. She had a son, and she came to the third Rebbe of Chabad. His name was Menachem Mendel. Also, they called it Tzemach Tzedik, and she asked if he could help her find her husband, because it was known that the third Rebbe of Chabad did a lot of miracles in this area of helping agunot, women whose husband had left them. So the Tzemach Tzedek put his head down, said, I can't help. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. I just can't help. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know. Can't help. So she felt, very bad. But on the other hand, what could you expect from the Rebbe? Is just a human being. What could you expect from him? Nobody knew. So the brother said, listen, if I'm already here, can I ask something also? So the Rebbe said yes. So he said, I want to go to the land of Israel. I've been thinking about it for a long time. What do you say? Should I go? And if I go, would you give me a blessing? So the Rebbe said, I think it's a really good idea. I think you should go to the land of Israel. I think you should go. Of course, this was in the city of Lubavitch, right? Lubavitch is like in White Russia. So you should go to Lubavitch. You should go, you should go to Israel. And I think it's a good idea. You should take your sister with you. Take your sister with you also. Your sister and her son, it'll be a change of place. And so he said, okay, good. So they went home, they got everything ready. I guess her brother sold whatever he had and the things that they did. And he went and he bought tickets in the big center in, Odessa. Big. But they got down there and they realized that they did not have a passport for his sister's son. They didn't have a passport. So they didn't know what to do. So her brother said, listen, I happen to know that there is another town in a city called Yes. And they're not so careful about looking at passports. They'll let your son go without a passport. And in Israel, there's like no government over there, whatever it was over in Israel, you can get in, no problem. So she said, okay, but you have to come with me. He said, well, I already have a ticket for here. I mean, a ticket for, it's enough that I lose your ticket. But, I'll lose my ticket. I'll tell you what, I'll get over here. I'll take the boat from Odessa and I'll get to Israel and I'll meet you there at the dock. I'll meet you there at the dock. And meanwhile, maybe you'll come there a day or two after. So I'll have everything arranged. I'll have a house. And she said, no, I don't want any part of it. You travel with me to Yas. And if you don't travel with me to the city of Yas, then I'm not going to go. I don't want to travel alone. So he said, okay, no, what can I do? So he's willing to forfeit his ticket. I don't know, maybe he sold the ticket to somebody else. It doesn't say what he did in the story, but anyways, so they traveled together. They changed their plans and they traveled to the city of Yas. And on the way, as they were traveling, I think he was parked on the way or something. He was, anyway, the mail, there was a carriage that was for the mail department, a carriage, and I guess they were blocking the road or something, and the person driving the carriage, the mailman in the carriage, so he got out and he started screaming at them, they're blocking the road, and that he got all angry and he was kicking the carriage and everything like that. And so her brother, that he was driving his carriage, so he just drove off as fast as he could. They just drove off as fast as he could and left the mailman standing in the street screaming all these obscenities and yelling at this, running after them, throwing rocks, who knows what. So they just drove away as fast as possible. And they got to the next inn and they, brushed themselves off. And the owner of the inn, I don't know if they reached the city of Yas or not, but they were on their way. And so the owner of the inn said, "Oh, I see you look very shaken. What happened?" He says, "Oh, we were on the way here, and the driver of the mail carriage, he started yelling at us and screaming at us." He said, so the owner of the place said, "Oh, he's if you got him mad at you, you're in really bad luck because he's a really animalistic, terrible person. He's just a terrible, awful, person." So the lady, his sister, right? She says, "I think that's my husband. I think that's him." And he ran away. Before he left me, he had a beard, he had this and that. But it seems to me that that's him. So the owner of the bar, of the tavern said, "Well, if that's your husband, then you're really in bad shape, really in bad shape." Especially said, "No, we were looking for a divorce." He said, he's just an evil person. He's just so cruel. So they were thinking, well, maybe they'll hide, they have to hide the child also. The child was with them also. So before her and her brother could make up sort of a plan, all of a sudden this mailman burst in, and he was screaming and yelling at them. And as soon as he saw the lady and the boy, suddenly he became quiet and he ran away. And he ran away. So the owner of the place said, "Well, that was pretty strange. What is that?" And he came back a couple of minutes later, and he had washed off his face. And he said to the lady, "I'm willing to give you a divorce bill. I'll give you. I apologize what I did. I'll give you a bill of divorce." So the owner of the place said, "Wow, let's." Immediately he ran and he brought the Rav, and the Rav brought somebody else that was the owner of the inn. I don't know if the owner of the inn was Jewish in the place. In any case, the Rav came along with two other people. You have to have a judicial court. And one of them was the scribe, and they wrote a divorce bill. And within like 15 minutes, he had given the divorce bill to his wife. And he went over to the boy and he stuck his hand in his pocket and he gave him a whole wad of rubles of money. And he says, "This is for you." And he said, "May God forgive me." And he ran out. That was it. So it was a pretty big miracle that happened. Suddenly they realized that the Tzemach Tzedik had really caused this whole crazy thing to happen somehow or other. but it was all arranged like from heaven. The Tzemach Tzedek didn't say travel to Yes, the city of Yes, and they will you'll find, look on the street. It just came about on its own. The man himself got this idea of going to Israel, and the Tzemach Tzedek agreed that it should happen. And somehow or other, he was involved with the whole thing, that they found the woman's husband, and everything came out the best way. So it shows that God works in sometimes very, how do you say, unusual ways. Just like the human body has all these veins and arteries and nerves, and it's all a big tangle inside, and your heart is not exactly in the middle, and the lungs are not exactly the same. That's the way that God makes the world. And the Rebbes, they're the ones that somehow or other, the tzaddikim, they're the ones that somehow or other put in the necessary input that everything comes out for the benefit of everyone. Have a good day with Mashiach now.